In this section of your dysphagia and swallowing matters training, I hope to cover the role of the speech and language therapist and in particular the role we offer in supporting care home residents with swallowing difficulties. I will also be introducing our new and improved version of Swallowing Matters. This will include a background of what the resource is and a summary of what it has to offer. So what does a speech and language therapist do and what is our role in care homes? We might visit a care home directly or we might carry out an online consultation using our Near Me platform to assess, diagnose and offer advice to care home residents with either communication and/or swallowing difficulties. These are services available to any residents living in care homes in Lanarkshire who present with these types of difficulties. We work directly with care home residents, but also with families and care home staff in supporting the resident with their difficulties. We also work jointly with other health and social care professionals who may be involved with the particular resident in supporting them with their long-term care needs. For example, we may work alongside a community dietitian for someone found to have nutritional needs as well as swallowing difficulties. We also provide training to care home staff so that it's not just a case of us coming in and carrying our assessment and leaving. It really is a collaborative effort to ensure that every resident is managing well on or as best as possible on a long-term basis. Okay, so swallowing assessment and recommendations. Now, I'm not going to go too much into what speech and language therapy swallowing assessment involves. However, you may have been able to observe a speech and language therapy swallowing assessment being carried out in the care home, or you may have seen the outcome of it documented in a care plan. This slide outlines what the outcomes of a swallowing assessment might typically include and what it means for the care home residents as well as for the care home staff supporting them. These swallowing guidelines are generated from an assessment are commonly referred to as recommendations. So from an assessment, one or all of these things may be suggested to be amended from within the recommendations. For example, so thickening the consistency of fluids might help to reduce someone's risk of aspiration. Modifying diets might also help the person to chew just that little bit easier with minimal residue in the mouth after swallowing, therefore reducing their coughing or choking risk. The placement of food in the mouth can also have an impact on how safely a person can manage, particularly if they've had a stroke or they've got a weakness down a side, which can make them maybe more vulnerable to pocketing. Changing the volume size of fluids offered can also reduce the risk of coughing and choking at times, particularly if the person is quite prone to taking too much at once, gulping, and then coughing immediately afterwards. So sometimes just looking at ways around that can help reduce the risk of it going down the wrong way. Head position as well can have a bearing on how safely a person is able to manage, and we can often advise on that as well. And if there is a need for further more objective assessment, we might occasionally recommend someone for a video fluoroscopy, which is an X-ray of the swallowing, which is carried out or will be carried out at your nearest acute hospital site. Swallowing Matters is a resource developed by a group of speech and language therapists in NHS Lanarkshire. It was originally published in 2018. The resource was developed in response to a service-wide review and from the outcomes of a survey which identified the need for the adult speech and language therapy to be working more closely with care homes in the delivery of education and training around swallowing difficulties. It also identified the need for our service to be working more closely with your sectors and these sectors in the long-term care and management of care home residents with swallowing difficulties. Since its initial launch, Swallowing Matters has been endorsed by the Care Inspectorate and by the Royal College of Speech and Language Therapists. At the time, each care home received a hard copy of Swallowing Matters, and with this relaunch of Swallowing Matters, each care home will once again receive a hard copy of this resource. Electronic copies will also be made available to each care home. So what is Swallowing Matters? Swallowing Matters aims to assist people working in care homes identify when a resident is having difficulty with eating and drinking, so when they should maybe be considered referring them for an assessment from ourselves. It also provides practical resources for helping people manage with their difficulties, perhaps on a longer term basis, so So there may be things that can be done with the person to enhance their safety with oral intake without it necessarily involving a direct assessment. And some of the resources within Swallow Matters will assist care home, hopefully assist care home staff in delivering that and ensuring that. Swallowing Matters officially relaunches on the week beginning the 6th of March 2023. The team are delighted to host and welcome care home staff to in-person training events being offered and running in conjunction with the relaunch of this resource. Key features of Swallowing Matters include the fact that it has got practical resources within it, and that it's got a flowchart in it, which means that it can guide and direct staff to the most appropriate action that's required in helping someone to manage as best and as safely as possible. Thank you for listening to this section of the presentation.